Sam the Cat Detective by Linda Stewart. Chapter 1. It was one of those wet, hot nights in July, when living in New York is like living in a teapot. The guy I share my office with had left at 5 o'clock, after pulling all his usual 5 o'clock tricks. Turning off the air conditioner, turning off the lights, so that 7 minutes later I could turn them back on. We go through this every summer. Honecker, it has to be reported, is cheap. But then, on the other hand, he doesn't charge me rent, and I despise petty fights. So we play our little game. That part aside, we get along pretty well. I stay out of his hair, he stays out of my fur. Honecker runs his bookstore from 10 to 6 daily, noon to 5 Sunday, and I run my agency from 6 or 5 on. At least, I usually do. Trouble is, the private eye trade's been in a slump, and all I've been running for the last couple of weeks had been Honecker's air conditioner. That and my mouth. I squinted at the digital clock across the room. It was nearly 8:30, and my only activity for 3 solid hours had been staring out the big front window at the street. I was starting to chew a nail just to break the monotony, when I heard a little tentative scratching on the pane, and turned to see a long-haired, black and yellow girl, about 1.5 years old, very slim, very shy. She was looking at me slowly out of troubled blue eyes. She was my kind of trouble. I flicked up my tail and took my foot out of my mouth. There's a wide brass mail slot at the bottom of the front door, another good reason why I chose this address, and I motioned for her to enter. She landed on the welcome mat and offered me a slightly offended little pout. "You treat all your customers like third-class mail?" "Only if they're third-class male," I said somberly. "First-class female is a whole different thing." She played with it a while. "Well, you certainly talk like a detective," she said. "Are you?" I nodded. Her eyes flicked with doubt. "But you're gray," she said. "I sort of expected someone—" "What?" "More colorful, I guess. Like Garfield, I suppose." "You want a movie star?" I said. "You buy a ticket to the movies. You want a detective? You've come to the right place." "I hope so," she said. I smiled encouragement and led her through the cool, pleasant gloom of the bookstore and into my small, cluttered office in the back, the desk lamp filling it with warm, mellow light. Honecker had left a stack of books on the armchair, and she settled on top of them, examining the spines. "These are mysteries," she said. "All books are mysteries till you finish the last page. If you mean they're detective stories, right. It's all he sells." I settled at my desk. "So you want to talk fiction or you want to talk fact?" She hesitated prettily and glanced at one of her nails. "I don't know where to start." "You can start with your name, your address, and your problem." "My name," she said, "is Sugary." She had the sense to blush. "And my address is 12B. "You mean you live in this building?" "The penthouse." At that one, I pricked up my ears. After all, I'm in the business, and a girl in a penthouse can afford to pay the fee. I suppose she read my mind, or maybe just my ears. "I better ask you right now what your fee is," she said, "because I haven't got a—" "half a pound of lox plus expenses." "Lox?" "Smoked salmon." "Oh," she said. "Well, I guess so. I mean, if you can wait till next Sunday." "Then I'll have to have a small can of tuna in advance." "You're a tough one," she said. I was hungry, that was all. But if people want to figure me as tough, it's okay. And besides, it's good for business. I swiveled in my chair. "Let's talk about your problem." "Of course," she said, and then watched her nail again for a while. "It's hard to just blurt out your problems to a stranger. Can I ask you about yourself?" I shrugged. "It's your tuna. You can ask whatever you like. I'm 4. I said. "I've been a detective all my life. I was born in a precinct." "Don't joke," she said demurely. "I'm serious, I was. The detective squad adopted me. I stayed for a year and a half." "And then quit?" "I didn't like the bureaucracy," I said. "Bureaucracy?" A word meaning too many bosses and very stupid rules. Anyway, I quit and went into my own business. I smiled at her flatly, meaning I'm the boss and my stupidity's my own. She appeared to think it over, looking at me gravely out of angel blue eyes, then offered in a sudden little burst, "We were robbed." "When?" "I don't know. We went away for the weekend. We left Friday night. Anyway, we got back tonight and it was gone." I waited. "The jade necklace," she announced. "It belongs to Mrs. Sims." "Your family's name is Sims?" "No, we're the Crandalls. Mr. Crandall's a jeweler. He made it for Mrs. Sims. And the jade, Mr. Crandall said, was very old and rare. And then he said he was ruined." Sugary started to cry. I looked away at the ceiling. "What else can you tell me?" "The terrace door was open, and some flower pots were smashed." "The pots on the terrace?" She nodded. "Mr. Crandall said a cat burglar did it." She was really bawling now. I said, "Sugary, do you know what a cat burglar is?" She sniffed at me. "It's either a cat who's a burglar, or a burglar who steals cats." "Wrong twice," I said. "A cat burglar is a human being who's almost as smart and athletic as a cat." "That's impossible," she said. "Well, they come close. So the burglar, like a cat, could have leapt from another terrace or dropped himself down from the roof." "No," she said. "Yes?" "Uh-huh." "Could you find him? Could you find him and get the necklace?" I didn't want to lie to her. Cracking a burglary case is tougher than cracking a walnut with your teeth. So I simply said, "I'd like to have a look at your apartment." "When?" she said. "When do the Crandalls go to bed?" "On Sundays? About 10. "Then I'll see you at 20 after." "It's a date," she said, and suddenly bounded off the chair. She turned in the doorway. "Oh, merciful heavens, I forgot to ask your name." "Sam," I said flatly. "It's a date, Sam," she said.